السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم آمين. أما بعد. I hope everybody is doing well on this fine morning. Welcome to day 7. Welcome to the review session. I hope you all have come with your questions prepared. Um, Inshallah, before you guys even ask about it, yes, as planned, inshallah, if I remember to remind Ustadh, we will go over the exam, so don't worry about that. Um, but I think that's all I wanted to say. The article has been uploaded onto the website as well, for those of you who wanted that. It's under the title Iltifat article. But I think that's all I wanted to get out of the way before we start. So, Bismillah, bring on the questions, inshallah. Where can you find the exam? The exam can be found. Um, the exam can be found under the study resources section, study materials. If you go to study materials, intensive 4, day 1, the first thing there is intensive 1 and 2, review exam. Wa alaikum assalam. Um, Ilham, that's fine if you don't understand it. Ustad explained it once, just for the people who are a little bit more advanced. If you don't understand it yet, don't worry. That's not something you have to worry about. It's not something that we've even learned yet. It's something that's to come. It's weird sarf. We haven't learned anything about weird sarf yet. No, I can't upload the article in PDF form because um, it's a web page. So you can just follow the link to the web page, inshallah. And if you want to save it, then you can save it. What if you're not subscribed? Well, subscriptions, if you've been following along, then subscription you can get the subscription for free, so that shouldn't be an excuse. You can't access the review worksheet? You should be able to access the review worksheet. Let me see if I can access the review worksheet. Are you talking about the recognition workbook? Yeah, I just opened it. It's there on the website. Review what we're gonna go through in class? Why would I review what we're gonna go through in class if we're gonna go through it in class? That wouldn't be review. That would be preview. Can I explain jar majroor? Well, jar majroor is simple. If you remember the harf of jar chart, bata, kaf, lam, waw, min, fi, an, ala, hatta, and ila. If you see any of these words along with an ism, and the ism has to come right after it, there's not going to be any gap in between. It's not a long distance relationship. Then that fragment is um, a jar majroor fragment. I added a I added some tricks on my keyboard, so now I can do dagger alif. So for example, you can say, um, I just forgot every example of ala. Nice. Okay, just say على الأرض, على الأرض, with a kasra because it's majroor. The ala is the harf of jar, and al-ard would be the ism that it's making majroor. And that's why we say ala al-ardi, and you'll never see ala al-arda or ala al-ardu. It'll always be ala al-ardi. Anything after ala should be jar. Same with the rest of the harf of jars. Again, bata, kaf, tham, waw, min, fi, an, ala, hatta, ila. Sharon, that's something that is a little bit more advanced, so we'll leave that for now. Well, Sabrina, in Sarf, all really studying is memorization and then practicing going from one form to the other. That's pretty much all you have to do in Sarf. In terms of, it's not like in Nahu where we had like terminology really. We have a little bit in Sarf, but not as much. And we also had to make sure that when we see an ism, we can identify its four properties, and then if we have mudaf mudaf ilay, it's light no alif lam followed by jar. It's not like that, right? Sarf is straight memorization mostly. Balagha, maha, is um, rhetoric. So fancy way of saying things basically, and what it means when you say things fancily. What's the trick for dagger alif? It's really complicated. I like created my own keyboard. It took me like an hour and a half. Kalam, that's not something I can do, unfortunately. Man, y'all are looking for me on social media. It's a good thing I'm invisible. Light fi'l should be in intensive 3. No, it should be in intensives 1 and 2. We covered it at the end of intensives 1 and 2. So try day 9 and 10, 8, 9, or 10. Just like scrub through days 8, 9, and 10 of intensives 1 and 2 and see if you can find it in there. Jumla Ismiya recap. I mean, all we've really done so far in Jumla Ismiya is talk about the invisible is. And for the invisible is, we have a couple of hints on how to find the invisible is. Like, for example, if we have um, a harf of nasab and its ism followed by, I mean, if you have a harf of nasab and its ism, then chances are there's going to be an is after that. That would be a good place to guess there to be an is, right? So inna Allaha ghafoor, that would be a good place to put an is. Inna Allaha is ghafoor. Certainly Allah is forgiving. Um, Also, we had proper followed by common. Like we could just say Allahu ghafurun, and this would also be a good place to put an invisible is, because the word Allah is proper and then ghafur is common. Also, we had ismul ishara wa musharun ilay. Or sorry, we had the ism ishara, and after that, if we don't have a musharun ilay, so the next word does not start with alif lam. Because if I said ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ, then this is a fragment. This is not a sentence. I cannot put an invisible is here. This means that book. But if I took off the alif lam and this became ذَلِكَ كِتَابٌ, now this is not a fragment anymore. It's not that book. Now it's that is a book. That is a book. So we have a couple of these hints. I think there are two more that I'm missing off the top of my head. Um, but that's essentially what the invisible is. In English, we write is like that in nominal sentences in Jumla Ismiya, but in Arabic, they don't write is. That's implied. So when we're translating from Arabic to English or we're going from English to Arabic, we have to be able to Um, find what that invisible, or where the invisible is, will go. Exam review will be in regular class, inshallah. Chain in the break? No, break in the chain. Please explain kuntum. Kuntum is also weird solve. We're not doing that yet, so don't worry about it. Sadia, I think you would be fine if you wanted to join today's intensive. I believe today we're going to go over the exam, which is Nahu review, and then we're also going to be delving into um, recognition practice for present tense. So that should be stuff that you're all familiar with. It would be okay for you to follow along today if you wanted to. I would still recommend, continuing from where you are, because that would be more coherent. It'll be more of a, you know, continuous journey, I guess. You won't be jumping from whatever topic you were at to today. I I've downloaded the Quran. I don't think I said anything about that. Um, I think Ustadh mentioned that yesterday in his class about the Quran add-on. If you look up Quran for MS Word plugin, I believe that's what he said, then it'll come up. Yu'fakun. Yu'fakun. I'm gonna not explain that right now as well. Rabi'a, we did have a session yesterday. We had a review session and we had a regular class session. They should both be on YouTube. How do I use Arabic with harakats? So at least on Windows, let me see if I can show you guys. So in Windows, you have to go to language settings, and then from there you can add your keyboard. Okay, so for all those of you asking, on Windows 10, this is where you want to go. You want to, in your search bar here, just type in language. It'll come with language settings. It'll take you to this window here. You hit the plus sign, and then you look for it. All of these are Arabic, and they say where, like, the country underneath, Lebanon, Libya, so on. You want to get Saudi. I already have it, Saudi Arabia, and then all you have to do from there, once it's downloaded, it'll say it's installed. You can switch really quickly between the two by clicking down here where it says ENG, and you can select Saudi Arabia. But there's a keyboard shortcut for it too. If you press Windows key and spacebar, you can switch like this. So that's how, like, when I'm typing, I can switch. And that's how Ustad does it too, I believe. And then in terms of layout, you can buy stickers on Amazon. They're really, really cheap that you can stick onto your keyboard. Um, so you can look at the keyboard and kind of see the keys like you do for English. If not, then there's this option too, which is, I don't really like it. Your computer has an on-screen keyboard option, so you can see it, and then you can switch in between, and you can see where everything is, and it shows you, like, if you hold shift, the harakat as well. So that's how I did it with stickers. I didn't do it on the on-screen keyboard method because this is just in the way of everything. But yeah, I hope that helps. So Windows key, the one that has the Windows logo, and spacebar, that's the shortcut for switching, like that. Okay, yeah, I can explain ista'dhana. Hmm, okay. So once you see the ist at the beginning of a fi'l, actually isms too because we have istidhan, which is the masdar. But if you see ist or must on a word, then it's a pretty safe bet that it's going to be from the istaghfara family. Um, and given that, all we have to do is we have to plug the root in. And you know from istaghfara that the root is ghain, fa, and ra. So ghain, fa, and ra are the ones that are going to change when you're plugging in a different root. So given the three forms, past tense, um, past tense, present tense, and the masdar, all we need to do is we need to switch out the ghain, fa, and ra for all three of these. So istaghfara, connect to the fa letter, and then fatha on the next two. Ista'dhana, likewise, we're connecting to the fa letter, and then eu after that. So yes, da, nu, sukun, kasra, dhamma. Yasta'dhinu. And then likewise, again, we're going to connect to the fa letter and then a long fatha and then uh, make it mansoob at the end. So is, it, you'll see this one written two ways. Nan, isti'thanan. You also see it um, with the hamza sitting on a ya. Both of these are okay. Isti'thanan. Odina, if you see tu'ajibuka and it has a attached pronoun ka at the end, then you could say that you know, you amazed you, but it wouldn't make sense. So it would make more sense to look for an outside doer or translate it not in the you form. Kulla is a special mudaf. Yes, Sada. Sharon, type your question, then I can answer it. I can't answer. Please answer my question. We went through Hamza and Alif in a lot of detail a couple days ago, so check out that review session and the regular session for those. I don't want to spend any more time on Hamza and Alif because we've already gone to it in detail twice recently at that too. Maybe after a couple of days we can go into it again, but it's still pretty recent. So, well, Sayed, finding the family can help in a couple of ways. First of all, knowing the family will help you identify the root. For example, if you come across the word, in talaqa, and you want to know what the root is, so you can look it up in a dictionary because in Arabic dictionaries you look up the word by the root. You don't look it up alphabetically. So if you came across in talaqa and you wanted to look it up, you can't look up hamza, noon, ta. You would look up ta, lam, qaf. because that's the root. Ta lam qaf. So by finding the family, you can find the root. Also, if you know the root in a different family, then that can help you get the meaning of the word without even having to look it up. Because, for example, um, the more letters you have, one of the differences between, like, for example, family 1 and family 4, or family 4 and family 8, or sorry, I should use the words right. Um, what one of the difference between, like, a word being in the 6 small families versus being in the Aslama family, or being in the Allama family versus being in the Iqtaraba family, is that the more letters you have, the more intense the action is. So, for example, if I'm saying sabara, which means to be patient, and then I put it in the Iqtaraba family, which is istabara, I've added more letters now, so this is a more intense form of patience, which mean so I hope that makes sense. Um, so even if you didn't know what istabara was, as if you recognized it as iqtaraba, and you got the root from that, which is sabara, and you already knew sabara has to do with patience, then you could understand a little bit of the meaning from just that. Sharon, I already answered that question. I said that I'm not answering it because it's going to confuse you. So that's just a little bit into why it's good to know families. Also, if a word if you have a root in a certain family, it can have a completely different meaning too. Nafaqa, nun faqaf means to be hypocritical, but anfaqa means to spend. So, the root the family does have an effect on meaning as well. No, Labiba, you have it mixed up. Attached pronouns for anta will only look like ka, kuma, kum, ki, kuma, kunna. Those are all attached. It doesn't matter if they're attached to an ism or if they're attached to a fi'l. When you see the ta, tuma, tum, ti, tuma, tunna endings on a fi'l, that's not an attached pronoun. That's an inside pronoun. That's the inside doer. There's a difference. Make sure you understand that. Yes, Muhammad, that's correct. Law of inertia for status is when there's no fi'l involved. Ghufran doesn't seem to match any family. You're right, because it's a form that you have. It's not a family that you haven't learned. We're not learning any more families, but it's a pot that you haven't learned yet. There are extra pots that we haven't learned yet. Like, remember when we? Oh no, we didn't talk about that either. Okay, there are extra pots that you haven't learned yet. Um, so some of the words you're not going to be able to recognize. Mishi, I think you forgot to finish your question. Sadaf, I'm not going to go over ittakhadha. Ustad just went over it once for answering the question, but we'll learn it in the future. Answer key for the new workbook is not up yet. Tu'ajibuka in the Huwa version would be yu'ajibuka. The Huwa version of tu'allimani would be yu'allimu. The root letters are ayn, lam, and mim. This is allama family. Allama yu'allimu. So if you do the solve for yu'allimu, yu'allimu, yu'allimani, yu'allimuna, tu'allimu, tu'allimani. So it could be both of you ladies, It could be both of you masculine, or it could be both of them ladies. It could be three different words. Muhammad Zubair, what does what mean? Page 37, question 23. Let me take a look. There's no question 23 on page 37. Are you talking about the Nahu workbook? Yeah, there's no. Okay, next page. Got it. أطعنكم. أطعنا. So kum, you have to take off the kum is the attached pronoun. So we take it off. أطعنكم. So take off the kum because it's an attached pronoun. We don't deal with attached pronouns when finding the doer, and we're left with أطعنا. أطعنا. Um, and if you remember your endings, which of the endings in our past tense chart ends with a sukoon and then na? Nasara. Try to match it with nasara. Nasara, nasara, hum nasaru, hiya nasarat, huma nasarata, hunna nasarna, nasarna. That's the ending we have. So ata'nakum is the feminine plural. That's why you see they. Good. Hunna. Good. If I find an ism fa'il, how can I find the huwa version? Well, you know the Muslim chart. So the huwa version would be the masculine singular. So for example, this is the huwa version. Huwa muslim. Then you also have huma muslimani, hum muslimuna, hiya muslimatun. We didn't do it like that, but that's essentially what's happening, right? And this is why we don't use pronouns for isms because pronouns don't have isms in them. Fi'ils, they have pronouns built in. So we say huwa fa'ala because there's a implied meaning of he did it already just in the fi'l. If I say Muslim, there's no implied meaning of he. So we don't say there's a huwa version for a Muslim. We say this is the rafa singular masculine version. Yep. Um, I don't know what your name is. Something Fatima. Waswasa is not from the Aslama family because Aslama family always starts with Hamza Fatha. What's the huwa version for the masdar? Again, for isms, we don't say huwa version. And then the version that's given is the default version. It's just made nasab. So you can make it rafa if you want. So for example, علم يعلم تعليما. تعليما is masculine. It's also singular and it's nasab. So you could just say تعليم and then you have the masculine singular rafa version. Nurun. I don't know how long the break is going to be after this one. Ustadh will let you know, inshallah, when the break comes. Warda, inqalaba, and iqtaraba differ because inqalaba starts with in, and iqtaraba has a ta. That's the difference. Any method to derive them? Sure. Saud, just like you do any other pattern, the dhaf are going to follow the same pattern, right? For the small families, the patterns are maf'alun, maf'ilun, and maf'alatun. So just like for every other family where you replace the fa, ain, and lam, you're doing the same thing here. So for example, nasara yansuru, mansarun, mansirun, and mansaratun. Here, mansaratun. Or I could do sami'a, masma'un, masmi'un, and masma'atun. So you just plug it in, just like you do for everything else. What family is yadhakkaruna? You tell me. Oh, actually, that's weird. Okay, I'll give a chance. I'll give a shot at explaining it, but it might confuse some people. So first of all, you can tell from the beginning and the ending that this is present tense. Ya una, right? So let's make it present tense normal huwa form. Take off the ending, and there we go. So ya and u. Which families do you guys know that in the present tense they have fathas the whole time, and they also have a shadda on the ain letter, and yeah, those are the defining features. Fathas and shadda on the ain letter. Nasara does not have a shadda on the ain letter. Okay, tafarraqa is one of them. We use ta'allama, and there should be one more that you guys run into. Actually, it's not ta'allama. We want the present tense, right? We would get yata'allamu. Allama and allama are the two that you should be able to narrow it down to. But yu'allimu it starts with you, so you can rule that out immediately. So the only family that fits yadhakkaru is yata'allamu. And yata'allamu has the ta and it has the shadda and it has all fathas. So actually what happened here is that this was yatadhakkaru, but because ta and zal they kind of sound the same, they got combined into yadhakkaru. That's what happened. So yatadhakkaru or yadhakkaru is yata'allamu, just the ta gets combined into the zal sometimes. Muhammad Ridki, you are correct. The small families don't have a pattern on the masdar. How do you know? You don't know because you haven't learned it yet. But you will. You'll learn everything, inshallah. Page 48, question 48, on what document, Ifra? I am not in any Facebook group. On phone keyboard, depending on the one that you're using, I use Gboard. Um, but for me, on the bottom right, I hold the the comma button, and then it lets me pick the harakats from there. But I don't know how you would do it on any other keyboard. How much of the workbook should you do? You can do all of it now with what you know. Um, so it just matters. It's more dependent on how much practice you want to get. Oh, sorry. Let me scroll up. That's the email. Arabic questions, Arabic at Bayyinah, tech questions, contact at Bayyinah. Yes, the masdars of the eight big families have a pattern. They'll always fit that pattern. Ta'liman for allama. Jahada has two. Jihadan wa mujahadatan. Aslama has islaman. Ta'allama has ta'alluman. Tasa'ala has tasa'ulan. Inqalaba has a inqilaban. Iqtaraba has iqtiraban. And istaghfara has istighfaran. Those will always follow a pattern. The small families will not, though. Okay, Dutch Moroccan, send me an email and I will forward it. Rizwana, whichever one matches your layout. Page one of day one news. An- Let me take a look. I'm assuming you mean in the review workbook, or the recognition workbook, sorry. For 22. Yeah, that is a typo. Um, you should still be able to solve it though. The typo isn't in the it's not in the pattern. The typo is just in the root. Why does the masdar of allama have a ta in it? Because that's how the Arabs decided to say it. No, Sadaf, that's not a real word. Actually, let me check if it is. I'm just saying that because it sounds weird to me, but let me see if anything comes up for it. What was it? Anqakhti? Um, no, it's not a real word. Javeria, send me an email. Send one to me, and I will forward it to one of the tech team members instead of the tech team email. Okay, let's see. Page 38. Oh, we explained this already once, but I'll explain it again. And there's one more, but actually, yeah, I'll just make sure I get it so nobody asks any more questions. قتلوهن. So for all of these, you might take a look at, or you might remove the hunna at the end because it's an attached pronoun, and come to the conclusion that because it ends in u, this is a this is the hum version. But that doesn't make any sense because first of all, um, if you try to take the root of these, then you would find there are way too many letters and it doesn't fit any pattern that you know. So you don't want to just look at the ending. We want to make sure it fits a family, right? We want to make sure it fits a family. And that's something you guys need to start getting used to now. Um, Earlier, when we only knew the past tense endings, sure you could. This was a valid mistake because you didn't know any patterns. But now you know family patterns, and if you look and you try to match this with a home version, it won't match any families. So that's something to take into account. Also, when we talked about the antum version of the past tense, so nasortum, we said if we want to attach a pronoun to this, then the tum will change to a tumu. So I can, if I want to attach any pronoun to tum, I have to change it to tumu, and then I can attach the pronoun. So nasortumuhu, nasortumuha, nasortumuhuma, nasortumuhum, nasortumuhunna, nasortumuka, nasortumuki, nasortumukunna, so on, all of them. That's how we attach to tum, and that's something to remember. So with tum, you can have a wow after it if you're attaching something else along with it. Muhammad Bashir, I'm definitely not the right guy to ask about that. I'm just here to help teach some Arabic. Yes, the maf'ul, the ism maf'ul and the dharf for the six small families are different. Good catch. What that means. What does what means? Don't just say what that means, but also ask your question along with it. Because there's a delay between when I see your comments versus when you actually send them. So like what by the time I see your comment, I could have gone through like four more topics. A lot can happen in 10 seconds. Why are we printing attachment, not using them? Um, well, so if you're talking about the day 1 through 5, then that's for you to use. You can solve that, and there's a key for it, and you get practice out of it. If you're talking about the review workbook, when I put up the review workbook on the first day, we needed it for class, so I put it up that day. And I told you guys that don't print it. I'm gonna make changes. So changes were made, but I warned you. Oh, it's already 10:35. Okay, I'll take one more question, and then I will wrap up. The warning was don't print the workbook when I put it up. That was the warning. I said wait a day and then print it. That's Alia, that shadda is something you haven't learned yet. Don't worry about it. Take my question, please. Okay. If you can type your question, I can take it. But if you just ask me to take your question, then I can't know what your question is. They're meant to be difficult. So whenever you have difficulty, you bring your questions to class, and then we can help you with your difficulty. Till where should you memorize the six small families? Till the end. That would be a good idea because we've given it to you to the end. Could Ustadh review the exam today? I will try to remember to tell him. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up, inshallah, and I will see you all in the main session. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليه جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته